fucking kill people. Like,
I got to keep it real, you know.
Yeah,
keep you guys on your toes.
it's not fucking Falling Down. You remember that movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas?
I love that movie.
You kind of got the fucking.
You know what was even better back in the day was the movie The Stepdad. So there's a series of movies. Holy shit. There's a series of movies where the guy would, befriend he'd start dating like a single mom. Like he'd move in like next door and then he'll wind up like dating her and then killing the whole family. And then he'd grow a beard and put on glasses and move to like the next town over and do it again. It was like the best. And he whistled Camptown Races. And it was like, you're sitting there, I'm like, today he wouldn't have got away. But back then, you're like, yeah, he just got a mustache and, he changed his shirt. And
yeah, it's the Clark Kent disguise, right?
That was a funny Saturday Night Live bit when Terry Hatcher was on, when she was on Clark and Lois. And then like people put their glasses on and she's like, who are you? Like, yeah. By the way, we're live. By the way, I just
yeah, I saw.
Yeah, that's people know that we're all fucked up, so it's okay.
Yeah. So yeah, dude, we we had an election.
We did.
That was that was a surprisingly fucking decisive process, wasn't it?
It's so because you don't know because we're all in our own echo chambers. I'm like, I know who I listen to, but again, I'm getting the information that, we receive. And so I don't know, I can only imagine what's happening on the other side, but it's like, I still like, will get stuff from like, the Guardian and, what's the other one? Like Huffington Post. Like there's a couple of things I'll stay in their feed just to kind of see what the hell's going on, but I didn't think it's like, I was really like this, like I never, ever, ever get anxiety or stress over a fucking election. Like never, but this time I got to be honest. I was really fucking concerned, mainly because of obviously one, what's going on with the country, but two, my business, they don't want anything to do with any firearms. They don't want anything to do with any violence. I mean, it's constantly, under attack. You would think that's, sometimes you would think like we sell ammo, right? Or, firearms, and we sell the things that exactly stop them or help you defend yourself against them. So, but they don't care, it's like, it's violence, it's whatever. So we're constantly, fighting that fight. So yeah, I mean, granted, when they win, my industry tends to do a little better, but I think what was happening now is that people were worried about the legality of things. So if you're new to it, they're like, oh, can I do this? Am I allowed to get this? And, we answer these questions all the time, but I was thinking, based on what happened with COVID and considering where everything was going, with, children's rights and parents' rights and, obviously, what's happening with inflation, the economy. Like, I don't give a fuck what you say. Shit costs 25, 30% more than it did a few years ago. You're looking at, once they get the green light to go, it would be over, because again, the way that, I mean, you want to talk about like conspiracy theory, whatever. The reality, I think Elon Musk nailed it. It's like, they're pumping up the, swing states with, illegal immigrants. They're going to, if they had this go around, they'd have enough time to give them asylum, to give them citizenship, and that's it. And we'd be like the town I live in, even though I'm in technically a red state, a blue state, it's red. So we have Democrat and Republican, but everybody's a Republican because everything takes place in the primary, right? So That's what would have happened to the United States. So it would have been a one-party state where now we're back to, going back and forth, we're arguing in the primary, right? So at least now I was like, I got a little faith, a little hope. You know, I'm like,
Yeah, it's
Oh,
interesting
I'll tell you. I'll
because
tell you. Like, yeah, I was just gonna say
go
from
ahead.
my end, right? Because I stayed watching it, and we hear people's opinions and everything, and I mean from what we were hearing, it was going to be like really fucking close, like really really close, and the fact that it was decided that evening. I mean, I never in a million years thought it was going to be decided that quickly. I thought we were going to have something drag on for weeks, if not months.
yeah, I thought it was going to be either close or what it was. You know, that was kind of my feel. You know, that was kind of my feeling because if it's like, okay, if it's like, the shenanigans and fuckery, afoot, were there, wherever the shit they did, whatever happened. I mean, there's always going to be some level of cheating. Who knows what? I mean, people cheated in an election since forever. So, you just don't know to what degree. And you assume it's kind of happening on both sides. Again, we always feel one side always feel the other side is better at it than they are.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, we have the bottom line is they've got 2 years to kind of do what they said they were going to do, or they're full of shit. Right. That's where we're at now. Right. You got it.
Especially since they got the Senate and
Right.
the House as well. Like, there's no
Right.
excuse.
I would imagine a couple of older conservative justices are going to retire. Right.
Did they get the House as well? Was that
yeah, they got
is that
everything.
official?
They got the House, and now they got 53 in the Senate. So
Yeah, they got the Senate first. They were waiting on the
Yeah.
House, but
yeah, so you're looking at, yeah. I mean, I'm liking what look, dude, he's got Musk. I mean, like Elon is like, to me, too good to be true. I'm waiting for the other foot to drop. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, dude, is it really? You know what I mean? It's like, besides like, a SpaceX, Starlink, I'm like, holy crap, man, boring company. Oh yeah, Tesla, there's that. You're like X. I mean, people they don't realize, what an impact he's had on free speech, our country, what we stand for. Yeah. He knows he overpaid grossly for X. He did that for a reason, because he was buying free speech. He wasn't buying, a platform. I get the argument from people. It's like, oh, he's a shitty businessman. I go, first of all, he's like the richest dude in the world. So settle down. I go, but you think that it's not about the money at this point. He's like, dude, he offered Uber to send an Uber to the space station for NASA. I'm like, he's got, the government spent $40 billion to bring internet to the inner cities, and nothing was done. And we could just throw Starlink, give them Starlinks for pennies, and comparatively, and everybody would have internet access. So, I think it's up to us. It's up to them now to execute on it. I love that RFK is going to go, clean house. I mean, you don't realize what an impact that can have on the quality of life here, where, even they're talking about like Canada, Fruit Loops in Canada. I mean, that was something that resonated with everybody. You're looking at fucking, what do you got? 3 ingredients. We have like 18.
yeah, it's crazy.
It's
crazy.
It's nuts. I mean, for well, what happened to, I don't know if like RJ Reynolds, like when we started hating cigarettes. And by the way, people still smoke. I mean, it's not like they're out of business. So a lot of RJ Reynolds started buying like Kraft Foods and all these other food manufacturers, and started applying the technologies, the techniques that they used to make cigarettes addictive for food. So, that's where you see, like, and this is in this, coming in the 80s and the 90s, where you see this transition where people started just getting, fat as hell.
Yeah, I've seen a few things where it's like pictures of people in the 60s, and it's like nobody's fat, 50s and 60s. And then it's like pictures of people in the 80s, just 20 years later. It's like everybody's starting to get fat.
Right.
You know, it's crazy.
I mean, we used to do shit because I was a kid in the 70s and 80s. Like we used to have. Did you guys used to have like the physical fitness test?
Yep.
Yeah. No more. They stopped it when my kids were in school. At least I know they stopped doing any of that. And they're like, at least when they did it, it was like everybody got like a participation award.
Yeah, they still do it here in Texas, but it's just it's like a way for them to kind of just see where people are at. It's just like no
Right.
expectation, you know?
Yeah. Is there a presidential award?
I don't remember.
I mean, I remember I was a bigger kid, and it was like I was like in, I want to say, 4th grade, and I remember I could only do like 1 or 2 pull-ups, and I fucking hated that. So my dad got me one of those pull-up bars that go, in the bathroom, like in the bathroom door, So
Yeah, the door jam one. Yeah.
yeah. So every time I walked into the bathroom, I would try to do a couple pull-ups. Then, dude, within a year, again, now it's like I started, by the time I was in like 5th, 6th grade, I was doing like 12, 13 pull-ups. And then in 7th grade, I remember I did 20 pull-ups. But I was like, then testosterone starts kicking in and all that shit. But it was one of those things where I was like, I'm embarrassed. People laughed.
I had the same thing. Yeah, I had the same thing. I was like 12, and I was just like, this is unacceptable. I remember I spent just an entire summer. Everywhere I went, I was doing push-ups off a curb, on the ground, wherever. I'd just be standing around, push-ups, air squats. And like by the time the summer got over, I was way better,
Right.
And I was no longer embarrassed.
Yeah, but that you need that trigger, as a kid, to kind of like, fuck that. I don't want to fix this. I got to fix this, and I'm pissed enough to make it, to make a difference, and I'm gonna do something, and you didn't have to. My dad invested like, $4 in a fucking pull-up bar. You pushed off the earth, and yeah, man. I mean, that's what I think a lot of our guys are missing. I mean, us as parents, we find that through sport, where, at least they're going, your kids are going to BJJ. And I mean, your kids play athletics where they're being challenged and they're winning and losing, and they're putting themselves out there and being embarrassed and being, being made to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's so massive in a human development. Parents, if, you're listening to this, whoever you are, I'm like, let them fucking go out there and fail. Yeah. Don't be afraid, and, just let them, because you're going to fail more than you succeed by a mile. So, that's why I like baseball a lot, because it's basically a failure sport.
It's true.
If you get up and you're successful 3 out of 10 times, you're awesome.
Yeah.
So, that's where, you're like, but it's just tough. I mean,
it's kind of like track and field too, right? So like you're running, there's always somebody faster than you. You're always just like, no matter how hard I try, I can't catch that person.
Yeah, man, exactly. You ain't like I said, if you're the best guy, you ain't looking hard enough. I'm like, shit, man. It's true. I said, like, I think of stuff we used to have when we were kids. We used to have like track and field events where all like the grammar schools would compete at the high school. And, and the gym, we had gymnastics too. You're trying shit. Dude, I sucked at gymnastics. What the hell am I doing? I could do a handspring on the pommel horse, the vault. That was it. Which was good for a kid, but then there were kids that were like, doing round off, mounts and fucking backflips and shit. I'm like, I'm doing my handspring. I'm fucking call it a day. It was like 2 steps up above like the straddle. Like when you go over it, you just throw your legs over to the side and you're like, yeah. Yeah, dude. I said, like, getting your.
But the masters of the straddle are the ones that grew up to be the most popular ladies, though.
It's true. True. Dude. So yeah, man. So anyway, so how you guys doing? What's going on in your lives?
Doing good. And so actually, you made a comment about how you were really worried about this election, right? You actually had like some anxiety towards it,
Yes.
and then you were saying that like, oh, but you don't know how the other side's feeling right now, right?
Oh,
So,
they're miserable.
oh yeah, I used to work in the school system, so I know a lot of teachers and people that still work there, and we know the
Yeah.
schools are super liberal.
Right.
So I was talking to my one of my friends who's still a teacher there. I was talking to her husband, and he was telling me that uh, she almost came home the day after the election. Was that yesterday? Because it was insane. She was like every student was bawling like through the entire day.
Were they high school?
Every single teacher, yes, high school. Every single teacher was just bawling. They think their life is over. Their rights are over. Like they're never going to be able to be a human being ever again. That's what they think from this.
That's again.
I
That's
hear a lot of people fucking talk that shit, you know.
well, that's what they've been fed, right? I mean, you're first of all, you're told that he's Hitler, right? Right off the bat, he's a fucking Nazi, and he was already had the office. He wasn't a dictator, and he didn't start really any wars at all. You know, so we didn't try to occupy other countries, and we didn't, target groups and try to eliminate them off the planet, right? So,
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
Yeah, I was talking to my brother the other day about authoritarianism, and he's now suddenly decided he's liberal, which is fine, it's whatever.
Yeah.
But he's
Sorry,
talking about how
sorry for your loss.
But he said that he was worried about the authoritarianism that Trump's going to bring and stuff, and then he proceeded to talk about how he's pro-socialist programs. And so then I had to be wait before you comment. And so then and we were just had a conversation, and I was just like, okay, and he was telling me about some of these programs, and I was like, do you realize that in order to make this program work, the extent of authoritarian oppression that would have to occur? And he was like, well, yeah, but right,
Well, yeah,
their authoritarian oppression is different than other authoritarian oppression.
Well,
but
because
anyway,
because
wait, I'm not done. I'm not done.
Right.
And so then, but then, I started thinking about it, and I didn't think of it at the time. I wish I had, but I was thinking about it over the last few days, and Trump's entire goal is to reduce government. That's the opposite of authoritarian.
Right.
So I don't know where they get this whole like he's super authoritarian from.
All he said was this. He's like, I'm going to be a dictator on day one. He goes, I'm going to do two things. He goes, I'm going to shut the border and I'm going to drill. So they hear the words, I'm going to be a dictator.
Yep.
Stop.
Yeah.
Right. It's like when he said, oh, if we lose, there's going to be a bloodbath. Oh, he's been violence. The whole sentence was, if I lose, the auto industry in the U.S. it's going to be a bloodbath. They're going to kill us. Right. When he's talking about, I'm sorry to upset you, ladies, he was talking about immigration. He wasn't talking about, Roe v. Wade. So they pick these little fucking snippets and they throw it out there. And you're like, look, I mean, and then like my daughter's like, again, my daughter, I love her. She's appropriately where she should be in her life. Right. So she should be, given the career she's in and where she's at. She's not woke by any stretch of the imagination, but she's like, well, she hears, rapist and things like that. I don't, for the sake of my family, and I'm suggesting this to everybody, I'm like, everybody just shut your fucking mouth. Like, don't, like, just be like, okay, if you want what I know about it, I'll share it with you. If you don't, that's fine too. Right? Yeah. Don't get into an argument with your 20-year-old kids over this stuff, because honestly, there's going to be a time where they're going to grow out of it. You just got to fucking be patient and be the adult in the room and let them do this thing. Or not.
Yeah.
But eventually,
Yeah, that's one thing I really like about me and my brother is like we just had a conversation and we're just like we're just gonna agree to disagree on some things. All right,
And
let's go
that's
play a
it. You go
game.
about your fucking
You
business.
know?
Because
Yeah,
because if you needed him, he would fucking show up.
absolutely. Yeah,
That's
my
what counts.
right. My
That's
brother,
what fucking
and
counts.
the funny thing about my brother wanting these socialist programs is what it really boils down to is he's a capitalist who loves the ability to make a lot of money, blah 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 blah. But he
Right.
hates to see people suffer, and so he
Right.
wants to have programs in place that help people. And I'm like, so you're just a
So
good
do I,
person,
by the
right?
way.
Right. I'm like,
Right.
so you're just a good person, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Right. And it's like you're like, yeah, so we can start by stop sending money and stop these fucking foreign wars and all this other bullshit, and take care of the people who live here first, right? I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, we're on the same page.
exactly,
And it's like
exactly.
most of this shit, it comes from a good place, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're like, look, I mean, nobody wants to see anybody fucking suffer. It's not like I sit there and I'm like, dude, given I'm like, I would say I'm more on the left than I am on the right, when it comes to a lot of shit. So, I think, they look at us like, we just like, fracking and clubbing baby seals, and you're like, dude, I'm like, you're not really listening. I mean, I remember getting into an argument with a friend of ours who, is gay, and him and his partner, and it was late, and I'm talking to them. They're like, they're saying shit. I'm like, you think I give a shit about any of what you're saying? You know what I mean? I'm not like, I'm not on the QAnon newsletter.
Right, right.
I have no idea what's happening. I go, all I give a shit about is, paying my bills, my community, my family. And I go, and then it starts expanding out from there. But as soon as this shit starts creeping in, I'm like, dude, I mean, I'm glad you're in Texas, because like with all like, look, because you have got younger kids with, the gender affirmation and all the other shit that's going on.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's such a fucking, you don't know. And then, if you're in a different state, it could be fucked up.
Yeah.
What's like, I don't know if you guys seen What is a Woman? Matt Walsh's film. It's excellent. So he did that, and he did Am I Racist, which is even funnier. But it's like he talks to these people, but he's like actually serious and inquisitive. And he's not like crazy confrontational, but he just keeps asking them questions. Like, what is a woman? He's at like American University talking to like the head of gender studies. And this guy can't answer that fucking question. And he's talking to a physician in Rhode Island. And he's like, so he's like, a 4-year-old knows they're sexually aware. They're aware of their, what their gender is. And if they're a boy, she's like, oh yeah, 100%. He's like, without a doubt. He's like, yes. He goes, okay. He goes, does that child believe in Santa? Right. And she's like, yes. He goes, right. So you would say his sense of reality is wrong. Right. I'm like, she's like, well, his imagination, and just starts fucking justifying this shit.
Yeah.
You're like, that's a fucking doctor. Right. So if you don't know any better and your bullshit alarm doesn't go off. I mean, look, man, when I was a kid, you went to the doctor was like, whatever he said, you fucking did. Right. So I come in now, I'm going to tell you, man, like these fucking guys, like when I had my testicular cancer and I came in, and after the surgery, right, they're like, okay, we got it out. They took Lefty out, and we found you had all 4 kinds of cancer in that nut. I'm like, okay, we suggest, because my lymph nodes one was slightly larger, but not out of the ordinary, though they wanted to do some fucking robotic surgery on me. I'm like, oh. I'm like, what, to take out all the lymph nodes? I go, oh. I'm like, what does that entail? Well, we go in and, it's a robot. We blow it up and we go in. And there may be a 10% chance that you have latent ejaculation. So kids, for those of you playing at home, latent ejaculation is when you bust a nut and nothing comes out. So I go, so basically, and this is before I met with the oncologist, before they did any other follow-up blood tests. This is like post-surgery fucking meeting. So I go to the doctor, I go, what are my chances that I would have to do this and that I've got cancer in the rest of my body? He's like, oh, 15%, which he's just throwing up a fucking number. And I go, there's 10% chance I get this latent ejaculation. I go, dude, if you told me I had an 85% chance of cancer, I'm like, there's no way I'm getting that surgery. Because I go, how do I know when I'm done? I go, do I spit? And I looked at it, the guy looked at me like it's fucking insane. And I'm like, dude, no. I go, here's what's good. And Angela, of course, like scorched earth. She wanted to like take everything out and just get rid of it. And I'm like, no. I'm like, easy, settle down. Right? I'm not gonna get neutered because this fucking guy like likes my health insurance. So, I'm like, let's go. I go, okay. I go, tell you what. I go, we'll put a pin in it for 2 months from now because I want to meet with the oncologist.
Right.
I want to meet with the oncologist first, right? So we could, we do that, and so we go home. All of a sudden they call, well, hey, we got an opening next Tuesday. You want to come in? I'm like, you guys, what the fuck is wrong with you people? It's like, no, I don't want to come in. So then I finally go to the oncologist, and he gets the fucking, and he gets the, he gets the fucking report. He's like, look, he goes, I'm the chemo guy, and he's like, I'm looking at your numbers. He goes, no, he goes, there's nothing here that would suggest we do chemo. We're just gonna monitor it and see. And that's what it was. So I'm like, yeah, fuck them. But then this was the same. So this is another story about COVID, which you guys will think of fucking interesting. So this is all during COVID when I'm going to get my follow-up. So I meet with the doctor, and the doctor happens to be Jewish, and we're talking about, the vaccinations. And, I eventually didn't get vaccinated, but, I've got a card that says I did. And, they, I was always on the fence about it. I wasn't like, no, fuck you. I was just in a position. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, let's wait and see what's going on. I'm like, if I don't have to get it, I'm not going to get it. And then as time went on, I'm just glad I didn't get it. So that was just the luxury I was allowed that, I could have. I didn't have to, no one was waving, okay, you're going to get fired from your job. You're going to get kicked out of the service. You're not going to travel. I didn't have to face that fucking decision. Right. So, I can sit here and be like, oh, dude, I'm going to tell you. I mean, if it was between like feeding my family and getting the fucking jab, I'm probably getting the jab. That's just what it is. So anyway, I'm talking to him, and he's like, well, we should maybe, I don't know, make sure everybody's vaccinated, and, maybe we put a barcode on them.
Oh,
and like, we could do that. I'm like, we could tattoo numbers right on their fucking forearms. and he's like, oh, realize what he said. And I'm like, dude, I go, that's how this shit starts, by the way. And it was like, okay, he's like, we're just not going to talk about this anymore. But he really definitely realized what he said. And I'm like, I'm guessing you're a Jew. Right? I'm like, I'm throwing it out there, man. I know where you live. I got the last name. I'm like, just saying, I could be wrong. Whatever. Color me Himmler. But I mean, I'm like, dude, I could fucking, yeah. So, yeah, but that was like someone from the medical profession, again, during that time and that snapshot that just didn't really have the bandwidth to fucking think about it. And now getting back to what just happened with RFK, I'm interested to see what happens. I don't know what exactly these people can do. I don't know what their level of power is. I think it would be fucking super cool if Trump pardoned Hunter Biden. Just throwing it out there. I think it would be fucking awesome. You know what I mean? It's like, it's okay. So Hunter, see you at Mar-a-Lago. I'm like, because he didn't hurt anybody. He's just a fucking lunatic. I'm like, I don't know. So, one thing I wanted to bring up. This was from like freaking weeks ago. So do you remember? See if I got the right thing. Hold on.
Are you fucking holding up traffic there, Josh? Like,
Yeah, I parked like right at a stop sign. I just turned the car off.
beautiful.
Nicely done.
Fuck all of them.
Hang on, kids. We may have a demonstration soon.
No, I'm gonna sit in the parking lot. I don't know why somebody's honking. They're like way over that way.
Oh, shit. So I was looking. Where the heck did I put that? Don't tell me I deleted it. So there's two things. One is wait. Let me do this one first. Where the heck did I put it?
So Josh, buddy, while Damien's looking, are you catching the fucking fight next week? You looking forward to that?
Which fight?
I guess not.
So for anybody who's not watching, they need to know that I rock a flip phone and I don't media anything.
The Tyson Paul fight.
I'm jealous of the flip phone because as soon as I sell these fucking companies, I'm going there. It's not anytime soon, kids, so don't worry about it. But yeah, that's gonna happen. I'm gonna have a fucking flip phone. So speaking of boxing, so it's reported that you remember the name Emain Khalif from the Olympics?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Turns out she was born a man and has there she is, and has still has I think male genitalia intact. The thing is they're not testing her, but now that it's coming out that she in fact was a man.
I mean, who's surprised though?
No one. But again, you got this fucking, it's like, we talk about like women's rights and obviously, it's not a simple black and white subject. But, the reality is it's like, you're talking about, protecting women's rights. And meanwhile, you've basically got a man that is in women's space. Right. So
can any decision be made now past the Olympics to actually strip him, her, them of that fucking medal?
There's people calling for it, whatever the fuck that means. So whatever. I don't know. I'm like, probably nothing's gonna come of it. But you've got the IOC, and you've got everybody that just people lie. Like a lot, and you're, everybody's like operating on it, you go on this thing. This is why it's like even shit that, I agree with. I'm like so hesitant because, if it fits your personal, your personal agenda, I'm like, you're very, very, very apt to, say yes, I agree. That's true, right? So the other thing I wanted to pull up, but I couldn't, was that the remember the riots in England where the Taylor Swift, the kids stabbing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize they made it seem like some random act of violence, but now it comes out that the person who perpetrated this was definitely hooked up with with Hamas. I think it was Hamas, and they killed like multiple women.
Jesus.
I mean, it wasn't like some like isolated criminal.
Yeah. So when they first spun it, they said that it's somebody who was basically naturalized. They their parents they were like born there as a child. Blah 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 blah. Everybody's just being prejudiced, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So I'm looking up on Swift stabbings Hamas. Okay.
Wait, did they find out the person is connected to Hamas because their pager exploded?
Right. Okay, so I found something. Hold on. Okay, so police say British teen accused of fatally stabbing 3 girls also had poison and a terror manual. Well, that's interesting. I don't know what poison it is, but he's 18 years old. Charged of murdering 3 girls and stabbing 10 other people. Oh, he had ricin. Okay, kids. You don't get ricin down at the fucking, at the local ricin store.
Nope.
You've got to process it. It's a fucking.
That one's a little harder to come by. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. I'm like, okay, that is interesting. Yeah. So again, back when this first started, they here it is. Okay. Yeah, this is it. So back when it first started, like Josh, just like you were saying, they were saying it was an isolated incident. This was not, and that's why everybody started freaking out. And again, like we talked about back then, I mean, this is, what happens at the end of, multiple events and multiple stress. It's not just like the first thing that everyone comes out as racist. And I go, and this is the other thing that's happening. Speaking of racism, getting back to the election, is like now you hear now the other side's saying why they lost. It's not because it was a shitty campaign with no platform, right? And no one did an interview, right? I'm like, they're saying they lost because the world is racist and misogynistic, right? She didn't get elected because she's a woman.
They're not wrong, because most of the world actually is racist and misogynistic.
You're absolutely correct, by the way. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's just like we live in one of the countries that is the least racist and misogynistic.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, what the hell was I saying? I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of diversity and inclusion on the Chinese Olympic team. I'm like, they're really fucking looking to fill those spots. Fucking people are just so, you're like, why not look at it's easy to say, oh, they didn't like us. They didn't, they lost because they're racist. Not that our policies sucked. We didn't have any policies, by the way. When asked about, Kamala's talking about, oh yeah, change. And she's on The View and they're like, what would you change differently than Joe Biden? Nothing comes to mind. You really don't have anything. You couldn't spin it and say, hey,
I would have changed nothing, even though we're in a way worse economy. Like all these problems going on, but you're not going to change anything.
Nothing. And you could have easily just been like, look, I'm the vice president. I basically do dick. Right. So I have to, I can voice my opinion. No one's listening to me. I'm not like, it's not like I have an actual responsibility. I'm basically here in case this motherfucker dies. Right. So that's my job. She could have just been like, hey, man, that's it. Hey.
Yeah. For the last 3.5 years, I basically haven't been able to do anything.
Right. And she didn't. And everyone fucking believed it. Because what the hell does the vice president fucking do other than being basically a diplomat? Right. So you'd be like, look, he did this. I disagree with it, but it wasn't my position to say anything. I'm part of a team and that's it. But now that if I get the job, this is what I saw from my exclusive point of view. I'm going to change X, Y, Z, and that's it. No, they didn't even prep her correctly.
Well, that's you bring up a great point about the prep, right? Like where was her campaign advisor saying, hey, here's 3 key points about change because it's going to come up.
Right.
That's it. Just mention these 3 things.
Yeah. And nothing. She didn't fucking try, dude.
Yeah.
And that's where you're like, they sit there and they talk about how dumb everybody is. They're hoping they were dumb. But they're not, because they actually fucking listened. Yeah. And, I just, I hope. Look, I don't know if you guys saw that Hamas is talking about a ceasefire now. Yeah. Hold on a second.
Again, I don't media anything, so
I don't. Right.
I don't know.
Well, it was funny because I was talking to Gaza ceasefire talks. Probably wait until Trump's inauguration. Let me
Well, it's like if the whole world hates Trump too, how come what was it, a dozen plus world leaders, like as soon as it looked like he was potentially going to win, immediately called him and said, "Hey, I can't wait to work with you."
Right. Why were they cheering in the streets of UK? Why were they cheering in like Polish Parliament or wherever the government that I saw was going on? Why like the newscasters in Israel going crazy?
Yeah.
Right?
Apparently in Germany they all broke down crying. That's what my buddy said.
Really?
Yeah, they were upset about it.
Oh no shit.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. But then my buddy in his political correctness was like, Germany's often been on the wrong side of things.
At least twice that we know of.
I was like, ooh, that's harsh, bro.
I think about when you say that as Norm Macdonald's joke, when he's like, it's Germany against the world. Not once, but twice. And it was kind of close.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wasn't like, it's amazing when you amp guys up on meth. That's what I got to fucking Blitz, I think it is. It's about the German soldiers in World War II and how they were like amped up on methamphetamines. And it's like, they're like, yeah, they could march for like 3 days, but they had like anger issues.
Perfect for a soldier.
Right. It was funny. Somebody described being on coke. He's like, when you're on coke, you run away. When you're on meth, you run towards. I'm like, okay, good, duly noted. Add that to the list of drugs I will not try.
I have like this little military like fact book, from history or whatever, and it has an entire like 2 pages on the drugs different militaries have used throughout the years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And like what, for example?
Oh gosh, well, I mean, the berserkers obviously were taking all kinds of stuff.
Right.
I don't know. It's been years since I looked at it. It's like packed up in a box. But there's like it's like 2 pages worth of like stuff, and it says like what the drug was and who used it.
Right. It makes perfect sense. I mean, dude, the one thing it's like you want soldiers to fucking fight, and you can do all the convincing and fucking, conditioning that you can, but there's always going to be a large percentage they're not going to.
Yeah.
So get them amped up, get them out of their skulls, and let them fucking rip. Yeah. It's like shit. What were the leaves the dudes in Africa were fucking chewing on? Black Hawk Down. They were like, it was like cocaine. It wasn't coca leaves. It was something else, but it had like the same effect. And all these dudes fucking just kids like sitting there with AKs and chewing on fucking leaves all day. Yeah.
Yeah.
No shit. Because it's like harming another human being is not something like you naturally want to do.
Right, unless you're a sociopath, yeah.
Right. So, it's like people think like, when you're, well, you go and, they'll just go in there and take care of it. Oh, it's not fucking easy. It's funny. So I was talking to my buddy, Mike, who was, he's actually been on the podcast before. He's a West Point grad. He's out in Arizona. Used to do stuff we used to help out McCain back in the day. But it's like, thinking about like, I'm like, so how did we wind up getting this election? He's like, look, I think they were planning on Biden like doing like a linear decline. And then getting them through November. And then at some point replacing them in 2025, right? Business as usual. We keep rolling forward. But then they realized he was, non-competent.
Yeah, his first debate didn't go well.
Well, the thing about they put the debate early. Right? It's never been that early before, so it was kind of a coup. So they wanted to get, him out and put somebody else in, and they already had the money for her, so they're kind of stuck with her, right? So I think they just kind of half-assed and limped into this, and thought like maybe the machine would take care of it, and the media and all the other shit, and she just, goddamn man, she just could not talk a fucking. She's like the Michael Jordan of like saying nonsense. I mean, really, dude. I was like, listening. I'm like, holy crap, man. I'm like, it's just circle after circle after circle.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. So
hey, you should put your tinfoil hat on real quick. We should go down a little rabbit hole.
There we go.
Okay. So have you guys seen the different posts coming out? I know like Health Ranger did one where it's like talking about how people were predicting that Trump wins easily, but it's all part of the plan because then they basically create what happened when he was in before, and like cities were
Right.
burning, stuff like that, which
Right.
they didn't happen, but did happen.
Right. Of course. It's a peaceful protest. Flames fucking
and
crap.
yeah, and so anyways, this one article I read by that dude in particular was very interesting about what they think could happen over the next few months, just to make life just pure miserable, going
Please
into his.
do tell.
Oh, so I mean, I'd have to look it up to get remember all this stuff because it was quite well done. So a lot of it, what I was impressed by is all of it was like worst case scenario, right? So it was like if all of this panned out, that would be impressive because that's really not likely.
Right.
But it was like they. Well, let me see if I can pull it up. Hold on. See if I disappear or not. Did I disappear?
Yeah, you're good, but we can hear you.
Okay.
So
yeah. Let's see if I can pull it up here real quick.
So the reality is,
but
like, they want to do it in a way that they can use. I'm guessing get to the point of using what the fuck martial law. I mean, to get
kind of, sort of.
Because now they've got an excuse. The only problem is their side doesn't have any guns.
That's not true. They got guns.
I know. I'm just saying, just in general.
All right, so here we go. So this is the natural news, like Health Ranger dude, Mike Adams. So anyways, so his analysis, this was on the 26th of October. So it says Trump's going to win big, and then the real fireworks begin. America won't survive for even 1 year.
Really?
Yeah. And then he says, once Trump wins, all hell. The radical left activates every asset they control to cause mass chaos and violence across America. Their goal is to make America ungovernable for 2.5 months. Then they have the Biden-Harris regime, who's still in, to help accelerate the violence by using federal agencies against Americans. And then they're like, then there's a real chance that the U.S. and NATO initiate nuclear exchanges with Russia or a false flag detonation. And they're like, and then if by some way we make it to January 6th, then, Rep. Raskin has already said he's not going to certify the votes, citing paragraph 3 of the 14th Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
And then they disqualify Trump, and then we have a civil war. And it just goes on and on and on. And then they're like, and then the BRICS nations just publicly denounce the dollar simultaneously. And it's like every worst case scenario thing in this, right?
Right.
So I'm reading through this, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. That's all like worst case scenario, but it's also still plausible. Like it could happen.
Yeah. I mean, they would have to be organized. I mean, well, where would you get like, I don't know, let's just say 100,000 soldiers and
all the illegal military age males that are already in place.
Exactly. And place them strategically throughout the United States.
Yeah. And hey, you know what? Trump's already said he's going to deport all these people. They're here. We talked about this already. They're here already. You think they want to leave? Nah.
Oh, hell no. No, they're like they're getting paid.
Right. So yeah, no, they don't want to leave. So, that's going to be a fight at a minimum.
Right.
So anyways, so, it's that's why I told you to put your little tinfoil hat on, right? Because I'm like, how much of this is actually going to happen? Who knows? Probably none of it, or maybe just small pieces of it.
I would think there's going to be some protests and some shit. There will be. There will be active shooter events. I mean, that shit's going to happen. I mean, look, they tried to kill him twice.
Yeah.
And
so I say all that to bring up because we're on the Kill or Be Killed podcast, right?
Right.
So if people are feeling more comfortable and confident and like, hey, you know what, the orange-haired man won, like everything's cool, the country's gonna be so much better. It's gonna be like ripping off a bad Band-Aid.
Yeah, man.
like things are probably not going to be that much better for quite a while, if ever.
If ever, because now you've got people who feel like they're, they're fucking, justified, and their country is taken away from them.
Right, exactly.
And the only difference between actually their side and I hate to say our side because it's stupid, because but the difference between what I've seen is that other than like the January 6th stupidity, which again, to use the term insurrection is retarded. Sorry, people. It's, it was more like a guided tour with vandalism. So, but there is the other side, they seem to have a little bit more propensity for violence, right? Like, you've got the Antifa groups, and I know they talk about the Proud Boys. I don't think the Proud Boys fucking rioted, right? We had the one instance down, with and that was the other thing that with the asshole that ran over the fucking people down at, was that South Carolina or North Carolina?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where Trump's like, there's good people on both sides. He wasn't talking about the white, you know what I mean? They took that. That was another fucking snippet that they fucking blew up before he just said, he's like, when he completely denounced fucking the white supremacists, all the other bullshit, it's just ridiculous. But, with, George Floyd, with all the, there's like a definitely more of a, propensity for violence with that movement. I'm like, you're going to be, and then again, who's in the crowd too? You got provocateurs. It's easy if it's either a government agency or a foreign agent or a foreign nationals that can easily spark up bullshit. Yeah. And next thing you know, it just takes off because like we talked about before, you're in a crowd. I'm like, that's it. I'm like, it's a fucking wave. I'm like, I've basically forbidden my kids to go to any fucking protest of any demonstration of any fucking kind. Right?
Yeah.
I'm like,
you have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah. You're just putting yourself out there. I know it's your First Amendment right. I get it. Don't do it. That's it. You know what I mean? You want to do a fundraiser? I go right ahead. I'm like,
So then that brings me to another point. I'm sure at least Damon, you're probably tracking the polls and everything. Did you see some of the alternate candidates that were getting votes? There was the one, I forget her name, something Dela Cruz or whatever, and she was for the party of socialism and liberation, and she got over 50,000 votes across the nation.
Wow.
Really?
And socialism and liberation only says one thing: socialist revolution.
Right.
So you got at least 50,000 people who are willing to vote.
Right, to go on record.
That they want a socialist revolution. Like, what are those people going to do?
Right. They're out there. So people head on a swivel. This shit is like we didn't. It ain't over, and they're not going quietly. Again, it's like you said before, Josh, is like you get into this, false sense. Yeah, it feels good. But now there's a lot of people who don't feel good. I think, but there's an overwhelming majority of the population that does feel good. I was watching. Did you see? It was on CNN. It was hysterical. I'm sure you saw it, where the analyst and the reporter are like, "Well, what counties Kamala did better than Joe Biden in?" And he hit the map and it was blank and like a third of the map was covered by the ledger. And she's like, well, just move that out. Look at the East. And there was nothing. She was an absolute failure, and again, to think that, you're looking at that and you're like, why do you think that is, people? It's not because we're fucking racist. It's not because we're misogynistic. I'm sure, there's a good number of us are. It's because we're fed up with the fucking bullshit, and what you had to say was not what we wanted to hear.
We want $1.83 gas again.
Yeah, dude. We do. Yeah, holy fuck! And in California, that's $4 a gallon.
Right, exactly.
Unfucking believable. So all right, boys. What do you got planned for the weekend?
Nothing on my end. Just a little bit of fucking relaxing. No.
Yep.
I can't remember more than a day away, so I don't know.
Yeah, tomorrow is my 28th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. In a row.
Yeah.
And it's only cost you one nut, so
Hey man, I got
That's
off
awesome.
life. Right. It actually costs both. I just have only one left. But yes. No,
does she keep the other one in her purse, or?
Yes, of course. I shouldn't have it, to be honest. I shouldn't be allowed to have it. We were just talking about it before. I'm like, I can't wait for it to stop working. I will be so much more focused. Just like, holy crap, man. Yeah, dude, I can't. I shouldn't be no. So yeah.
And Josh, watch the fight next week, buddy. Watch the fight next week.
Tyson,
I probably won't, but maybe I'll watch
Tyson
the
to Paul.
I just it's on Netflix, so
yeah,
they're doing.
I don't Netflix either, so
no Netflix and chill in your life, eh?
They're doing. So
I have the History Channel and the BYU channel.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be on the History Channel.
So, it's just again, it's an interesting. I like Jake Paul. I did not to win the fight, but I just like him because he was like already like a fucking multi-millionaire off of YouTube.
Yeah.
Right. And he was like, living a life. He was getting high and fucking hanging out and banging girls. And he's like living in LA. And he's like, there's got to be something more to this. And he was like 18 years old. So then he got into boxing, and he got into fighting, and then caught the bug. And yeah, man, he's a legit fighter. I mean, look, he's only been fighting for 4 years. Yeah, he did, did other combat, he did like football and wrestling, but he wasn't boxing. And you got fucking Mike Tyson, who is still Mike Tyson. He's not a 25-year-old Mike Tyson, but dude,
I wouldn't want to get hit by him.
I don't know, man. You think I've seen him fucking training and everything, but I think his age is going to be a detriment when he gets to the fight.
I mean, for sure.
Only if it goes. I think if it goes long rounds, but he's probably on all kinds of fucking tests and whatever else they got him on, the recovery and all the other shit. I'm like, he could do this like once. You could do this like now, but you can't do it like twice a year.
Right.
That's the problem. So
yeah, because I know Paul isn't putting on the same amount of fucking weight he had before. So
yeah, but he's like, still, dude. He fought what's his name, Fury's brother, who's a legit fighter, and it was close. And he's fucking, again, he's probably like, yeah. I'm like, the problem is, it's like he'll have openings that Mike can fucking exploit. And I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, he's going to come in, Mike's going to peekaboo and just be like, bang.
Yep.
It's going to be, because again, like when they fought the Roy Jones Jr. fight, I think Mike was kind of I think these guys weren't really going at each other, like legit. I mean, it was an exhibition. So they were like kind of chill and, because Mike did do many headshots, in that fight. So, but yeah, man, I think it's good. I think it's good for boxing. It's a generational thing where you got guys like our age and then guys that are in their 20s. Like everybody's fucking watching this thing. Some people don't know who the fuck Mike Tyson is now. Other than you watch him, you watch his clips, you'll know who the hell he is pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So straight out of Brownsville. So, all right, boys, everybody, thanks for joining us, and we'll be good to go next week. Probably like obviously Thanksgiving week, maybe we'll take that off, but we'll see. Until next time, everybody, thanks for joining us. Train honestly.